SEC.
Are we ready to go, Angela? Okay. Good morning and welcome to the Lancaster County Board of Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, October 7th. Will you please join me in a salute to our flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. I'm Larry Hedkins, and this morning to my left is Vice Chair Brent Smoyer. To my right is Jane Raybold and Roma Amundsen. And as we begin this meeting this morning, we'll be assisted by Brittany Behrens, who is Deputy County Attorney. Angela Zockel will be our recording secretary, and we'll begin this morning's agenda with Dan Nolde, our county clerk.
A copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is located on the wall at the rear of the hearing room. Additionally, a copy of all written material to be discussed in today's open meeting is available from the county clerk's staff. The material can also be viewed on the county's website at lancaster.ne.gov. Agenda item 1 are minutes. Approve the minutes of the Board of Commissioners meeting held on Tuesday, September 30th, 2014.
Move approval.
Second?
Are there additions or corrections? If not, will you call the roll, please?
Raybold?
Yes.
Amundsen?
Yes.
Smoyer?
Yes.
Hudkins?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Number 2 are claims. Approval of all claims processed through Tuesday, October 7th, 2014.
Move approval of the claims.
Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Raybold?
Yes.
Amundsen?
Yes.
Smoyer?
Yes.
Hudkins?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Number 3 is a special presentation, Southeast Community College Annual Report. Dr. Paul Illich, President.
And we have a new face this year. Mr. Heck has been a regular here for many, many years, but welcome.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate getting the chance to talk with you this morning. My name is Paul Illich. I'll give you just a little bit of background about myself, and then I'll
Thank you.
touch on the highlights of kind of what we've been doing this past year. I was at McLennan Community College, which is about 4 miles from Baylor University in Waco, Texas. So I spent the last 17 years there. The last 7 years, I was Vice President of Information Technology Planning and Research. So my background is in research and planning, and I was heavily involved in strategic planning the last 17 years. So I'm delighted to be here at Southeast Community College. It's a very, very interesting, incredible institution. I think we're able to do some great things. So let me just give you, you should have a handout in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, is that, okay. So if you see sort of where it says SEC annual fact sheet at the very top, I'll just kind of walk through just a few things. You probably know, of course, that we've got 3 campuses, Milford, Lincoln, and Beatrice. We also have a downtown location. We've got over 52 separate programs spread across those various campuses. 12 of our programs are offered fully, well, at least partially online. 2 of them are offered fully online. In the other cases, you can complete the program, but you may have to do your internship in a face-to-face format. So if you look below where you see the various programs, you'll see that we also offer continuing education across multiple areas. This past year, we had over 30,000 students enrolled in the continuing education programs. This is something I know you're going to want to hear about. If you look at the very bottom, you can see that in terms of the tax rate and the tuition rate, we're right now at $59.75 per quarter hour. That represents a $3 increase from the previous year. So for the entire year, a full load, which would be 45 hours, quartered hours, that would be almost $3,300. At the bottom, you can also see the tax rate. This is the tax rate. We actually cut it from 5.67 cents per $100 valuation down to 4.98 cents. That's the general levy. So that actually, we also have 1 cent for capital, for the capital levy. That's 6.567 cents. That's a 10-point 3-4% decline from the previous year. Any questions about that? That's by far the lowest rate among the 6 community colleges. The others range between somewhere around 9 and 10 cents per $100 valuation. On the back side, let's talk a little bit about the enrollment. This is actually a national trend. Beginning in 2011, there was a decline across the country in community college enrollment. And you can see the same thing happened at Southeast Community College. So from the fall of 2013, we're right in the middle of the fall of 2014, so we don't have those numbers right now. But it was 9,751, which is a 4.1% decline from the previous fall. And you can see at the height of the enrollment, that was 12,000, and that was 2010. It's not on this sheet, but I do want to mention something about the enrollment. We're actually just starting implementing a new sort of enrollment management model that's going to be designed specifically to target opportunities where there's strong course demand and employer demand. So just from early studies, it looks like there's going to be some tremendous opportunities moving forward to grow our capacity to meet what appears to be very, very strong demand. So that's a wonderful sort of opportunity to have. Let's see, in terms of, there's some demographics there, but I just want to you can see at the bottom that if you look at where our students are coming from in terms of the 15 county service area, you can see that we've got 81% of our students are coming from the 15 county service area, and 70% of those within that 15 county area are coming from Lancaster. So earlier I mentioned we have the 3 campuses. The Lincoln campus is by far the largest. Milford has about 750, and then Beatrice is close to 900, and then Lincoln's going to be close to 6,000. So you can also see that we had 1,676 graduates this past year, which represents a slight decline from the previous year. And you can see 93% of our career and technical graduates either were employed or continuing their education. 97% of our transfer students were either transferred or they were continuing their education. The last thing I want to mention, then I want to open it up for questions and discuss whatever you'd like to. For 2014 and 15, you can see our budget. It's at 75, just right at $75 million. And if you look to the right at our expenditures, you can see that we're almost a third, and that's been very consistent. We are anticipating a slight drop in the tuition revenue, but so that's been very consistent. If you look over time, we've been right at a third in each of those categories. So what we're going to be doing this upcoming year is we're going to be focusing on strategic planning. We're going to build a 5-year plan. We just finished our last plan. It expired in 2014, June 30th. So we're going to be really looking at all of the data and getting a sense of where we want to go, and then set that in place July 1, 2015. So it's a very exciting time. I think there's tremendous opportunity. It's a very complex college. You've got the technical programs at Milford. You've got a combination of transfer and agriculture and other workforce programs at Beatrice. Lincoln, you got allied health. You got other automotive technology. You've got really a tremendous demand for transfer and arts and sciences at that campus as well. So there's incredible opportunity. I'm a data-driven person, so we're absolutely going to be looking at. We've already looked at it, but we're going to really dig into the information and find out not only student demand, but employer demand. So, for example, we'll be looking at not only existing programs, but future programs. What programs do we need to support Lancaster County, as well as all the other 14 counties in the service area? So I'll take questions at this point.
Commissioner Edmondson?
Yeah, I really wasn't actually going to make ask a question. I was just going to make a comment, because I think that, there is a distinct excitement there on Southeast Community College campus, wherever you go. And I've been in Beatrice, I've been, and so forth. And I think that the career academy that's going to be established there too is just going to really expand the influence of Southeast Community College. And I also want to say that my daughter graduated from Southeast Community College. She already had a 4-year degree. She got, and within, she was employed before she graduated. And, you know, as far as taking continuing education classes, I've done this at Southeast Community College, and I think that the instruction there is absolutely terrific. So I am a Southeast Community College fan. Just want you to know that.
Jane.
Dr. Illich, do you happen to have any idea what are the preliminary numbers on enrollment for this year?
It's funny that you asked that. If you would talk to my institutional research person, she would say, Dr. Illich has been in my office about every minute in the last few weeks. Well, here's how the registration process works. So the first day was yesterday, but yesterday and today, students are still registering. So as of this morning, it looks like we're going to end up pretty close to where we were last fall. So I will tell you this, though, if I would have had the presentation, you would have really been interested to see something. And one of the things that happens during a registration cycle is one of the model that I'm bringing, it's a very proactive model. So the way it works, when I arrived in July, the schedule had already sort of been built for the fall quarter. I did identify some opportunities, tremendous opportunities, but because we had very little time, there was an effort to add sections. So we did add sections where we could. But for the winter quarter, we've had more time. So moving forward, so if I were to show you this report, what you would see is we've got hundreds of course areas where we're at or near full capacity. What that means is that if you find out during your registration cycle that you go to full capacity, that means your students are not able to get into a class. So if you've got, and we've had waiting lists in the past. So if you've got waiting lists, what you can do is look at 3 or 4 or 5 year trend lines and see, for example, if you've got a computer programming class that's full, if you got 10 sections available and you got 10 students that can be in each section, that's 100 total, right? If it's 100 year after year after year, you either know exactly what the saturation point in the 15 county service area or you're way under it. And so we've got one basic mission, and that's to meet the demand, the student demand and employer demand. So if we've got waiting lists or we're full capacity, we've got to look at our space. We've got to figure out where we can be. So whatever the enrollment is this fall, what I can tell you is just from initial studies, there's tremendous opportunity to really make sure we're meeting all of the demand. So we're going to have to see where we have to hire instructors. We've got to build facilities possibly down the road if there's not enough space. But we're going to have to see what's the best way to go. So this is a year where we plan, we identify where we can go, and then we align our resources and we go after it. So it's very exciting. It's always what you don't want to be in a situation where people don't want you, right? So there is high demand for what we do at SEC. So I do appreciate your comments.
Well, Southeast Community College, I had the privilege of serving on the advisory board a number of years ago, and I was just always amazed with the number of students that you have 10 years after graduation that are filing Nebraska state income tax returns. I mean, the investment that we put in here, very, very high level of your students are retained and become productive citizens of the state and county and the community. And then your willingness to adapt. We've had tremendous demand for welders and with the oil fields in Dakotas, and I understand you've really beefed up those classes. Is this one of your highest enrollment areas or increase in enrollment?
Yeah, that definitely is one of, welding is a very popular program. I just was speaking to a student who I believe he was a graduate of UNL, and he had gone, actually he was working in the funeral business, and he'd come back to Southeast because of the opportunities in welding, and so he was just about to complete. The problem we're having with the welding program was we can't get them. We're having difficulty getting them to complete because they're being snatched up as soon as they get enough. As soon as they get enough training, the employers are just sort of hovering around and waiting to take them as soon as they get.
So as they get the basic skills down, they want them already,
right,
don't
exactly. And we're going to definitely be looking at, if we've got welding on one campus, do we need to have it at another? I mean, so we're going to be looking at exactly where the employer demand is and how do we make sure we meet that demand. And in terms of the Career Academy, I do want to mention that is a very exciting opportunity for us. it's definitely
Yeah,
something.
take a minute or two to speak to that, because that's new and that's innovative, and it's in cooperation with the Lincoln Public Schools.
Yeah, anytime you can have that sort of partnership, that's a very exciting opportunity. And what this is going to allow the students to do is to get a look into a very direct pathway into either a workforce or transfer program, much faster than they otherwise could have done. So it's going to give them an opportunity to start thinking about, what does it mean to be a welder? What does it mean to work in the allied health field? What does it mean to work in business and other industries? And so there's approximately 15 different pathways. And I'll tell you that that's going to be a fluid situation. We're going to be monitoring not just what the students are, we're going to obviously look at what they're interested in, but we're definitely going to be looking at what's happening with employers. So those 15 tracks are not static. Whatever they are now, they could be different in the future. So the idea is to keep up with the industry and to make sure that we have vertical alignment with what we're doing in terms of curriculum and what the skill set needed. That's really going to be our focus. But this is a tremendous opportunity to really not only be a sort of a local model, but a national model for how to work directly with students to get them, one of the biggest issues in higher education right now is the cost. And so this is an opportunity to really reduce that cost for students, and so they can have a more direct pathway to a degree.
If this becomes successful in Lincoln, like the Career Academy, is this something where you might be able to spread it out to the other campuses?
It's funny that you mentioned that. I just met with the ESU 5 in Beatrice, and we talked about that, and absolutely we're going to be looking at where the demand is. And the situation might be different, how we approach it might be different, but what we don't want to do is leave anyone out. I mean, like I said earlier, it sounds really simple, but if you're a community college, you're different because we have an open door. We're by statute, if you want to go to SEC, you can go to SEC. The only requirement is a high school degree or diploma. That's it, or GED. There's no other requirement. So because of that, we want to make sure the simple mission is, are we meeting the demand? But it's not that simple if you don't. How do you answer that? You have to define demand, and I'm not going to bore you with those details, but we've got a model that will tell us exactly what the demand is, and if we're not meeting it, whether it's in a career academy or a workforce program or a transfer program, that's the key. You have to constantly monitor it. So we're going to definitely be looking. We have a 15 county, not a 1 or 2 or 3 where the campuses are located. So we're also going to look at our physical footprint. Are we where we're supposed to be in the entire 15 county area? So what we're going to do this first year is make sure all questions and everything is out on the table, and we're really trying to see where we're going for the next, really, 15 years. A 5-year plan would be just a phase 1, but the idea is to find out sort of where we need to be headed to make sure we're meeting that demand.
Well, you're certainly offering our young students an affordable alternative. You're nationally recognized as we look not only in cost, but in academic excellence. And as we have reduced the amount of industrial arts and vocational education in the high schools, there's a tremendous need for what you're doing and you're going to. And we realize that not everybody can sit behind a computer all the time. We've got people that know electricity, hydraulics, welding, those skills, carpentry. We still have to have people that are skilled in those trades too.
One of the really great things about what happened with community colleges in Nebraska as well when they were combined back in 1973, one of the great things by moving the technical programs with the arts and sciences is now working together. There's tremendous opportunity. So, for example, in the transfer programs, we're not in the business to make a profit. So if we're generating additional dollars in those programs, we can take those dollars and we can push them to the
where the need is.
Absolutely. So if you've got employers needing additional welders, it's expensive to have a welding program. So we work together. It's not one side or the other. We work together, and then everybody wins. And so that's what's really exciting. I can tell you, I probably shouldn't say this in public, but my PhD was from Texas A&M University. But where I first went to college, I ran on a track scholarship at Blinn College, a 2-year college. And so I had personal experience, and I was one of those kids that really, my parents hadn't gone to a four-year school, so I really didn't understand what school was about. I just thought, wow, I get to go run cross country and track. And I discovered right away the incredible beauty of a two-year college. And so that's where I sort of got my feet wet with higher education. So I understand how important that open door is and what it means for people trying to get a computer programming, welding, arts and sciences. We're there for everyone. So we have to make sure we've got that capacity.
Any further questions? Thank you for that enlightening report, and good luck to you in the future.
Thank you.
We always
Just
look
let me
forward
know
to
if
your
there's
report.
anything you want me to come back. I'll keep it brief, and I'd be glad to do that.
Well, we had time this morning, and thanks for visiting with us.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next is number 4, public hearings, amendment of the Lancaster County General Assistance Guidelines.
Okay. Gary Shalupa.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. Good morning. Here to talk about the general assistance guidelines, and I guess I'd be a little remiss if I didn't first recognize the folks we have on staff over at the office. Cynthia, our deputy director, Lisa, Sandy, Janice, our caseworkers, who they're required to know these guidelines inside and out, word for word, letter for letter, and enforce them. And they do an excellent job of that. Tina, our bill payer, who keeps our providers happy and paying the bills in a very timely manner. Connie, who's your biggest fan, or who you should be a big fan of, who does our collections and increases our revenues. And of course, Melanie, who gets to meet every one of our clients at the front door with a smile every morning. So in recognition of what they do, real quick, we're required by state statute to review the guidelines every 2 years, and as is our normal process, we put a small subcommittee together out of our General Assistance Monitoring Committee. Those people met, we kind of talked about what we should do, what we shouldn't do. I'm one of those guys that comes up with all sorts of ideas, and to a large degree, Cynthia is my filter and keeps me from eating my shoe leather too often. But at the same time, this subcommittee looks at some of those proposals and kind of fine-tunes them, eliminates the ones that are bad ideas, and then, of course, brings to the monitoring committee itself what we think are the recommended changes. The monitoring committee talks about them, and then I come to you with that final product, and that's why we're here today, to go over some of those changes. I won't go over every detail, but I'll hit the really, really major highlights of the proposed changes that we have this year. The first thing I want to mention is that at one point in the guidelines, we have a kind of a catch-all clause in there that provides us, if we have something that comes up or occurs in the processing of an application that's not covered in our guidelines, we refer back to the food stamp or SNAP guidelines and comply with what's in there. And so we found a couple of cases throughout these changes where, to be consistent with that statement, it was best if we changed a portion of our guidelines so that we're more consistent. We had a definition of a family unit that was our own little phrase, and we're proposing to change that so it's consistent with what's in the SNAP guidelines. We also, later on, there are some other parts in here where it was just in keeping us consistent with that philosophy or that basic principle of complying with SNAP guidelines that we made some changes. We found out through the processing of an appeal that we didn't really have any application procedures outlined in the guidelines, and we didn't have a very clear picture of the reconsideration phase of an appeal. And so in a couple of different places, we've added language into the guidelines that further or clarifies or defines our application procedure. We added an appendix in the back that provides people with a sample checklist so they can see better those documents that were going to be required for us to fully process an application. And we better clarified this whole reconsideration process as part of the appeals process. And so it's, sometimes attorneys get involved and you know, they need to see the very clear-cut definition and defined process, and we didn't have that. So we've done a couple of things to implement that. Also, consistent with SNAP guidelines, we used to allow, make an allowance for a $6,000 automobile. SNAP allows $4,650. So again, in maintaining that consistency, we're proposing to decrease the allowance of an automobile that's owned by an applicant. We had a very confusing policy of income averaging when someone had maybe partial income and was partially eligible, and how we would determine their eligibility. And it took us a little while to iron out some of the details amongst both the subcommittee and the monitoring committee, but we are proposing a much better, more clearly defined method of determining someone's eligibility. As an example, when they have a one-time income from some, I don't want to say unexpected source, but like an income tax return. If they get over $1,000 in a return, that makes them ineligible, and what we're proposing is a way to average that out over a 3-month period. So maybe they don't lose total eligibility, because usually after that 1 month and that $1,000 is no longer income, they're right back in reapplying. We're going through the whole process again, and it helps us and streamlines our process. We are proposing to change the amount allowed for rent assistance when rent assistance is deemed to be necessary and is approved. We had not changed our rent assistance guidelines for, I think, 4 years, and so it was about time. We got a lot of help and we're more consistent with what some of the other agencies now in town are doing, and HUD is allowance and that kind of thing. So it didn't go up a lot, but there is an increase in the rent amount that should be noted. Same thing with the personal needs. You know, if someone is eligible and on SNAP or receiving food stamps, there's no allowance made for soap, you know, personal hygiene needs, paper items, that kind of thing. And so we have a personal needs allowance, and we're proposing to increase that just by $5 a month. But that amount I don't think has ever changed since 2004 when we took over the program. So making that change, it was determined to be appropriate. And then probably one of the biggest changes is in how some of the medical services that we do provide. It used to be the policy that it had to be basically a Medicaid reimbursable service. And not to say we're getting away from Medicaid services, but more and more services are now required to be pre-approved. That's not to make them or say they're not medically necessary, but that's the basis for which we provide the medical services, is when it's medically necessary. As an example, we're seeing more and more denials for reimbursement from Medicaid on MRIs because they're required to be pre-approved. And of course, we can't get pre-approval, and because the clients aren't on Medicaid yet. And so this is going to so there's some language in here to change that and now provide for those services, and the impact on the county is, I think, going to be significant. Now, depending on how you want to define in terms of dollar amounts significant, that's, you know, remains to be seen. But those are services that the county will now have to incur because we know we're not going to get reimbursed for them. You know, hopefully the staff at County Health Department will continue to monitor, you know, which services and make sure that they are in fact medically necessary and keep us on somewhat of an even keel, but there will be a financial impact on that type of service to the county. Part of our subcommittee included a couple of people from the Lutheran Family Services, who took over primary behavioral health services for the county, and we received their input as we went through this. And so those portions of the guidelines that needed to be amended or changed based on their input have been done so. So I think we got a good inclusion of all the medical aspects included in the general assistance guidelines. And as an overview, that's pretty much it, unless you have questions. Need to clarify?
Well, Roma and I sat on the Oversight Committee, and you spent many meetings and many hours going over it, and the subcommittee had done most of the work prior to that. So there's been a lot of thought that went into this, and I guess we'd certainly like to thank Joan Anderson, the Lancaster County Medical Association, for the hours that she spent on this and the guidance that she helped give us.
Yes.
And we want to thank you and your staff for doing this. It's a 2-year review that needed to be done, and it's extensive, and I think you went through it methodically and made the changes where they were necessary.
Thank you.
Since this is a public hearing, are there others which would wish to speak to this item, either for, opposed, or in a neutral position? Anyone else would like to come forward for the public hearing? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing on the Lancaster County General Assistance Guidelines, and probably the proper procedure to do at this point, since we don't have any new testimony asking us to make any further changes, would be to direct the county attorney to prepare a resolution. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it was moved and seconded. Discussion? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Amundson,
Yes.
Smoyer,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Hudkins.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Next is county change zone number 14006 from agricultural to agricultural residential on property generally located at Southwest 98th Street and West Van Dorn.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing on change of zone number 14006, agricultural to agricultural residential.
Do you solemnly swear affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Welcome, Sarah.
Good morning. Sarah Hartzell, Planning Department, and proud mother of an SCC criminal justice, soon to graduate while he's in boot camp in San
Oh,
Diego.
good.
Well, wow.
6 orders on the dean's list. So not that I'm proud or
Wow.
anything, but
That's great.
and graduating tuition and debt free. So
And that's very
thank you for your
important
support
today.
on that.
You bet.
The application that we have today is at Southwest 98th and Van Dorn Street. I can show you the location map here and then talk a little bit about the change of zone request. It's kind of an oddly shaped parcel. Has a little bit of a finger that kind of wraps around another piece that's going to be platted as an outlot and joined in with this other piece of land here. So this is not meant to be a roadway or anything like that. It's just a little remnant portion here. So the majority of the development would be then in this area. This area is shown on our future land use map as one of our future low-density residential areas, so that parcel would lie right here. These are areas that we show in the comprehensive plan as appropriate for agricultural residential development. This really kind of goes back probably 40 years in the comprehensive plan. For the last 40 years or so, we've shown areas around state lakes, recreational areas, as appropriate for acreage development, partially because those are amenities that people are attracted to. It's somewhere people want to live, and also because often there are improved roadways to those areas that we can take advantage of that improved paving. There is some land in the area that's already zoned as AGR, and that's shown in these blocks here. That yellow area kind of comes out to this point here. So we don't have any in this particular section that's already been zoned. This would be the first parcel to come in for that request. Now, whenever we get these requests for a change to AGR, we analyze them according to a piece in the comprehensive plan that talks about the change over to an agricultural residential use. And those pieces, I'm trying to flip while I talk here, sorry. Those things that we look at are paved roads. Southwest 98th is unpaved, as is Van Dorn Street. However, West Van Dorn Street is paved to Southwest 84th, which is that state spur that goes down into Denton. And it has been, from that point to the west, improved so that the profile of the road has been flattened out, it's been widened, it's prepared, basically engineered for future paving. It is on the County 1 and 6 list for paving. It has a relatively high traffic count right now, about 337 trips per day in the 2008 study, with 24 units proposed for this. Once those residents start moving in, that probably is going to bump that count up to a point where that road is going to move up on the priority list for paving. And we would anticipate that that's probably going to be the county engineer's goal, is to get that paved in the relatively near future. Now, 98th has a really low traffic count. It's about 37, I believe, trips per day. So that north-south connection is not terribly heavily traveled. Then Pioneer, when you get down 1 mile south, is also paved out because there's a camping area on Conestoga Lake at that point. So there is, within about a half a mile, actually a little less than half a mile, connection from this proposed development to a paved road. Soils in the area are pretty typical for Lancaster County. They do have written into the conditions of this preliminary plat that if the perk tests don't come out for a septic system, that a lagoon would be allowed. So the health department was satisfied with that analysis. Adequate water quality and quantity. Whenever we do these, we always ask for water information, and we start, rather than having them go out and do 20 wells, we start with what wells are in the area, what data do we have on hand, look at that. In this case, there wasn't a whole lot of data registered on hand. They only recently started registering all residential wells, so older residential wells, we just don't have the data. The applicant did go out and drill 2 test wells and was able to show good quality water at a rate of about 20 gallons per minute, which is pretty good for residential use. It likely would have to be treated. It's hard water, like most of the water in Lancaster County. Emergency services, this is in the Pleasantdale Rural Volunteer Fire Department district. It is 4.5 miles away, and Pleasantdale is the closest. And it's on gravel road, so a little bit more than some of the emergency response times that we have, probably still looking at about a 15-minute, but that is pretty typical for rural developments in the county. Agricultural productivity, there's a small amount of ag land that's listed as prime on this property, but that's about a third of the property. It's not, if you look at the overall farming on this land, it's not reaching that prime farmland overall. Parcelization and pattern of existing acreages. There are some parcels around this property that have been broken down into more of an acreage size. Let me see if I can get this one up here. Here we go. But they are a little bit further away. This area right now has been subdivided and is largely built out. You can see a few little parcels around here. Most of it's still in relatively large pieces. So this would be the first parcelization in the area. And there is no plans, this doesn't fall into any of the growth tiers of any of the towns or villages. You can see Denton's jurisdiction is down here. Lincoln's jurisdiction runs right across here. It's not in the growth tier areas at this time. So those are the things that we look at when we try to analyze the appropriateness of the change of zone application. And combined with the future land use map and those factors, it does appear to be an appropriate place for AGR development. The layout of the preliminary plat, often these don't come to you because they're approved at planning commission level. In this particular case, they are asking for a modification, and that modification is to the block length, the maximum block lengths for Southwest 100th Street. Typically, we like to see some kind of connection every 1,320 feet, every quarter mile. In this case, there's not a good sight distance along this roadway here at a point at about the quarter-mile point. Really the best entry point is right about here. They have worked with the county engineer to identify that access point, and it's been shown to be the best spot on there. So we are recommending, and the Planning Commission is recommending, a modification into that block length on that. But this is the layout, 24 units. They are showing connection, and they are providing for connection to the adjacent property should those owners decide to subdivide at some time in the future as well. Any questions?
Questions for Sarah? Well, we appreciate the briefing at the staff meeting. Commissioner Amundson.
Yeah, one thought just came to me. Is there any access to rural water if there is a,
No, rural
area.
water hasn't quite made it over this far. Pretty much Highway 77, it goes a little bit to the west of Highway 77, but that's kind of the line
okay,
on
so
the south part.
they would be relying upon wells?
Right,
Okay.
right.
Okay, any further questions? If not, is there anyone else which would wish to speak to this application, number 14006?
Raise your hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. My name is Bob Benish, and I'm the owner. I'll spell it for you. It's B-E-N-E-S. I'm the owner of the land. I actually bought this land probably 5 years ago with the intent that someday, when the market, needed more acreages, I would develop it into acreages. I've been farming it in the meantime. It's pretty tough farm ground. It's pretty hilly and rocky, so it lends well to development because there's good slopes and people like their walkout basements. So the reason we're coming forward now is we really are trying to satisfy a demand for more acreages, and we get that demand. I also own a building company, and that's primarily what I do is I build homes. And so what I'm doing here is really trying to provide a place for them to build. We really lack it in Lancaster County right now. Farmers don't want to sell their land off for development because land values have skyrocketed so much. So we're fortunate that we can do this one. We've tried to follow all of the guidelines. We worked with planning. Obviously, the big concern people have is water. Water is always a big issue, and I've built in some areas where water has been kind of a tough thing to find. Out here, we're fortunate. I do know my brother does live right next to that one of the parcels, and has fantastic water. And so, what we did is we actually drilled 3 wells. We added a third one because my well driller went out and drilled the wells and hit 10 feet of sandstone and stopped, because that's typically what they do, because that's going to produce 20 to 30 gallons a minute easy. We went back out and did a third well because we wanted to know how deep is that aquifer. And he went down 50 feet of sandstone and then stopped. But so it's in excess of 50 feet, which that's a lot of water. So we feel we have plenty of water there. I know it sounds like a lot when you say we're adding 20, over 20 homes, but in this case, I think it makes a lot of sense. So hope to get started this fall. So any questions that I may have?
No, thanks for coming up, and please sign in. Yeah, you bet. Is there anyone else which wish to speak to this application?
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. Mark Palmer with Olson Associates. Just following up on Bob's comments, we did do a very detailed water analysis when we went through the process. The health department was concerned, and so we did initially the 2 test wells. We added a third, and I believe we've met all the requirements for this property. Just one other thing: the development will be a sequenced build out. It's not going to be developed all 24 houses at once. I think Bob was looking at potentially the north 12 lots coming on first and then through. So I think 5 or 6 years would be the build out for this development. So it's not going to happen immediately. It is phased. With that, I'm available to answer any questions.
Okay, and I just was going to mention, okay, you had mentioned that if it doesn't perk, you're going to be putting the lagoons out, right? Okay, so when are you going to be planning on doing perk tests?
That'll be immediately. Would be after approvals, we'll be proceeding with starting the grading work, and that's when we'll do the testing work.
What is the quality of this, what type of soils do you have there?
You know,
They're mostly, there's some sandy loam, but it's mostly just a loam.
Just a loam? Is there any clay out there? Is it clay loam? Okay, okay.
Is there anyone else which wishes to speak either for, against, or in a neutral position on change of zone 14006 agricultural to AGR? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing on this item and ask the clerk to read accompanying item 5A, please.
Resolution in the matter of approving county change of zone number 14006 from agricultural to agricultural residential on property generally located at Southwest 98th Street and West Van Dorn Street in Lancaster County, Nebraska.
Move approval.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Amundson,
Yes, yes.
Smoyer,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Hudkins.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Next is 4C, County Preliminary Plat number 14003, West Van Dorn Estates on property generally located at Southwest 98th Street and West Van Dorn Street.
We'll open the public hearing on County Preliminary Plat number 14003.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. I think I kind of jumped the gun with the last public hearing and talked about this already,
The
but if
road.
you have any additional questions on the preliminary plat, I'd be glad to answer them.
Is there anyone else which would want to speak either for, opposed, or in a neutral position on this request for preliminary plat? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing on preliminary plat 14003. And Mr. Clerk, will you read accompanying item 5B, please?
Resolution in a matter of approving county preliminary plat number 14003 to allow 24 single-family acreage lots on 83.3 acres, more or less, and to modify the block length requirement to allow Southwest 100th Street to exceed 1,320 feet due to limited connectivity to adjacent major arterial Southwest 98th Street on property generally located at Southwest 98th Street and West Van Dorn Street in Lancaster County, Nebraska.
Move approval.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Smoyer,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Hudkins.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. New business 5C is a resolution in the matter of establishing the employee and employer contribution rates to the retirement program for all non-union employees hired or taking office on or after December 25th, 2014.
Move approval?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. I believe Chief Deputy Bymeister would like to address the board on this issue.
Good morning.
Welcome, Joe.
I have a couple prepared comments from Sheriff Wagner and I. We would urge the board not to pass Resolution R140065, which would lower the retirement match for unrepresented employees hired on or after December 25th of 2014. The county board has a pension review committee to provide advice on pension matters. That committee's recommendation is to have a study to determine the physical impact a reduction in the retirement match will have. We urge the board to follow that recommendation. Historically, government employees have not been compared to private sector employees. Defined benefit plans, profit sharing, Christmas bonuses, and performance incentives are not available to Lancaster County employees. A thorough and professional comparison may provide objective comparisons and end speculation. If this resolution is passed, Lancaster County will have the lowest retirement contribution of any county in Nebraska. We already have the lowest contribution rate for deputy sheriffs of any county in this state. In 2014, an analysis of wages showed historic disparate treatment of unrepresented employees when compared with similar represented classifications. Unrepresented employees have often increased levels of responsibility and trust bestowed upon them, which removes them from the community of interest with represented employees. The analysis showed that unrepresented employees received a compounded total of 6.9% less in cost of living adjustments than their represented peers over the last 12 years. If passed, this resolution will result in a $520 cost shift from the county to a newly hired employee making $40,000. These will be entry-level employees who can least afford to have additional money removed from their paychecks. Couple that with nearly a 19% increase in health insurance premiums in 2015, and new employees will see a substantial decrease in their take-home pay. Without the independent study, there is no evidence this resolution will save taxpayer dollars in the future. Employees subject to this new retirement match may feel compelled to work longer to ensure financial security in their retirement. Many employers have used financial incentives to encourage the highest paid employees to retire. These employees will be costing the county the maximum in terms of wages and benefits, further negating any potential savings to the taxpayers by this resolution. Without the study recommended by the Pension Review Committee, we do not know the true physical impact. Members of the board have discussed alternatives, including a legislative amendment to Statute 23-1118 that would raise the cap for employer and employee contributions. They have also discussed a potential match by the county to an employee deferred compensation plan. If crafted appropriately, these could incentivize additional employee savings. We support those actions. Passing this resolution today without a conclusive change to statute or a deferred compensation plan is premature. Respectfully, we ask the board not to pass this resolution.
Well, Chief Blymeister, we appreciate your concern, and particularly for the deputies, and you point out that because of the way we're constructed right now, that our deputies, or the new hires, it won't be the deputies that currently serving, but the new hires would be in a lesser position than most deputies across the state, and that is certainly is true. And this board has taken steps. We've asked the county attorney's office for an opinion on what we can do through the 457 and what latitude we would have, but we may have to go back to the state of Nebraska to get permission to go from 13 to 16%. But I, for one, am willing to pursue that avenue. Any other questions or comments? Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there others that would wish to speak? Ann, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Ann Post. I'm here on behalf of the Lincoln Independent Business Association, and I'm here to express LIBA's support for this resolution to move the retirement match for non-union Lancaster County employees and elected officials from a 150% retirement match to a still generous 100% retirement match. In 2012, LIBA worked with the county board and Lincoln state senators to pass LB 687. This amendment enabled the county to move from a 150% match to a 100% match. LIBA supported this legislation as a measure to control personnel costs and to bring public, taxpayer-funded retirement benefits more in line with private sector benefits. It's simply inequitable to demand that taxpayers fund retirement benefits more generous than those earned by those employees in the private sector. Since LB 687 passed in 2012, the county has negotiated 3 of its 4 employee unions from a 150% match to a 100% match. It's now appropriate to move non-union employees to a similar 100% match. For the past several years, Lancaster County has faced significant funding shortfalls in their budget, and county commissioners have been turned to one-time or short-term monies to fill the gaps. With personnel costs accounting for over 50% of the county's general fund budget, the county must control personnel costs in order to control the budget. Though immediate savings from this change will be small, it is the first step towards future savings and maintaining a responsible county budget. Therefore, to summarize, LIBA supports changing the retirement match for non-union employees from 150% to 100% as a necessary step to bring county benefits closer in line with private sector benefits and to create future savings to help balance the county budget. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Questions for Ann? Commissioner Rabel?
Well, I just wanted to thank Ann and LIBA and certainly the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce and many of the organizations that worked with the legislature on really studying this issue at that time and presenting testimony and going forward to make sure that we better position the county. And oftentimes Lancaster County is on the cutting edge to make sure that the taxpayers are being kept apprised and to make sure that going forward retirement benefits are still generous for the public sector employees, but more in line with what our taxpayers normally see as they go about their everyday life. And so I really thank LIBA, certainly Lincoln Chamber of Commerce, for assisting us on working through this issue. The other thing I just wanted to address, something else. This has been a long process, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we have 4 of the 5 unions who have signed on to work with us on reducing the retirement match from 1.5 to 1. This is something that I can assure you, I hear a lot walking around and going around the state of Nebraska about personal property taxes. Our property taxes are incredibly high, and trying to find ways and opportunities to reduce that. And this is one step in the right direction to make sure that we can deliver on our promises to our taxpayers. And I think the one thing that we have to keep in mind also, when we heard from Prudential, who reviewed our retirement benefit program, they were encouraging our employees to save more, to really try to contribute more. And they showed us very clearly that right now our employees for Lancaster County, as well as private sector employees, are not looking for their retirement and not saving for their retirement. And this is one opportunity where we really increase the amount that our employees can contribute to their own retirement. And this is something fundamental that everyone should be doing, but certainly this will allow our employees to even contribute more. It has been a very long process and a very deliberative process. We reached out to many organizations, and I think we've had a lot of participation on this debate and this discussion. And I certainly thank Jeff Bleimeister for his comments. I think it's always tough to enact changes of this kind, and I really commend everyone who has helped get us to this point.
I do.
Commissioner Amundson?
I do have a question regarding this. If we vote no on this, are we actually then essentially establishing the opportunity for further study?
I think further study can go further either way that you would go on this, because this isn't tied to any further study. We just, what we have done as a board is ask the county attorney's office to guide us as we look towards the 457 plan, which would allow the employees to save more. And that's what we're doing at this point. This
would we want to, pardon me, Mr. Chair, if I step in, given the fact that there's been a desire to see the implementation of the salary study plan, would we want to perhaps hold this for next week and change the resolution to include both the employment match change and require the study, so that way it follows through? I mean, we'll still pass the change, but then we can at least ensure the study is on track, we can resolve that it's going into place, and we can take action immediately to start that, I mean, what could be a multi-year process even. I mean, is that something we want to look into?
If you have no further questions for me, I'd like to thank the board for your time.
Thank you for your testimony.
Because I do think there's a concern from both the Pension Review Committee and, of course, Chief Bleimeister and others that we won't necessarily follow through with that study. And if it would make them feel better, I mean, I would be happy waiting 1 week, recrafting the resolution so it includes what we're discussing today and requires that we go through with the study, rather than just, you know, a handshake and a smile.
Commissioner Robel.
Raybold. That's okay. We need to remind all the county commissioners that this was one of our legislative priorities. It was supported unanimously by all 5 of county commissioners. What you're proposing are really 2 separate and sometimes very different issues. This is a resolution that we have all really worked very hard based on the comments that we have received from our taxpayers and working with certainly all the unions that are also employees for Lancaster County. So
Based on your commentary earlier, you were saying you wanted to see the match potentially increased, and that's going to be part of the study.
And I can also tell you that, we presented evidence from Emeritus that did some studies and compiled all the studies from those retirement associations that look at both public and private sectors. So I think, we presented that evidence and information already concerning the studies, and I'm certainly support studies, but that can be done anytime we want to do a study. We don't necessarily have to tie it to the resolution that is before us today.
Commissioner Smoyer, and if you want to respond.
Sure. Well, I guess my suggestion would be simply to tie this to it for the well-being and peace of mind of our employees. I think oftentimes, we look at where we've balanced the budget in the past. They've been denied cost of living raises when the representative classes have received them. They've been, bus passes, I recall, were removed a number of years ago, which, these are cost-saving measures and they're important to the taxpayers, and I understand that. But at the same time, remember, our employees are also taxpayers, and our employees are looking for peace of mind from us. And I think we need to show them a commitment that, yes, we are going to look into this salary study. We are going to be as fair as possible. Yes, we all support the one-to-one match. And I think even Chief Blymeister pointed out, if we were able to equalize what the contribution could be from the employees, allowing them to invest more of their own hard-earned money, they would be happy with the one-to-one. And I think that's entirely fair. But I think we owe it to them to give them the peace of mind that we are going to study this rather than pass this resolution right now and then turn around tomorrow and say, well, yeah, we've got more important things to worry about than a salary study. It's just, like I said, it's a small step to give them peace of mind, and we still achieve the same goal we were shooting for from the beginning.
Commissioner Amundson?
And I do agree with the fact that we do need to have that study, and so I do support what Commissioner Smoyer has said. There's a lot of time and money that went into that study, and I'm not sure exactly that we really examined all of the ramifications, particularly with the 457. And so I am absolutely, I think that we need to have another study, whether it's 1 week or 2 weeks. I'm not sure exactly if that time frame is that terrifically significant. So in that regard, I do support what Commissioner Smoyer has said.
Commissioner Rabel?
Well, I think it's you're creating a situation of unfairness for all those union members who negotiated in good faith with the understanding that this is something that we worked very hard with the Nebraska legislature, that we worked very hard in negotiations with the union members, and the understanding that this is something that would be uniformly and fairly applied to all classes of employment. I personally would allow and suggest a study, but not at this time and not at the delay or expense of passing this resolution that we have a motion before us.
Commissioner Raybold, I don't think anybody's saying we're not going to pass this and we're not moving toward this. I think we're just asking for some general fairness in how we take the approach. The represented classes have the CIR to allow that comparison, to allow for an in-depth salary review, and they've had that, and that's a very respectable commission and have provided excellent information, but we don't have the comparable information here for the unrepresented. So I guess as a matter of fairness. Now, if we want to work on this in terms of couching it in a different way, then how about this? I would make a friendly amendment to the motion, or offer a friendly amendment to the motion that we not only pass the resolution, but that we commit to enacting a salary study immediately, as of what time is it? 11:35. As of 11:37 today, we go forward with the Pension Review Committee or whoever needs to be involved to set up a committee for a study, and we move forward on a study. That would be my compromise amendment. But I think we need to commit to these folks that we're going to study this.
So are you going to study the 457, or are you going to study both, or what is the study?
All of the above. All of the above. We're going to study comparable wages. We're going to study the 457 and how we can make this, again, if employees are willing to contribute to their own retirement, I have no problem with people writing checks out of their own account to put into their retirement. So I believe that we need to study this in full. We owe it to them. Pension Review Committee recommended it, so that would be part of the resolution.
Commissioner Amundson?
The one thing is that I agree with you. We owe it to our employees to study it. And we have very professional, very hardworking, very dedicated people. And I think that that's one of the things that we should commit to.
Okay, we have a friendly amendment that is being offered. Does the maker and the seconder of the motion agree to a friendly amendment? And Mr. Clerk, will you give us the names of the commissioners that made the motion and the second?
Original motion was made by Raybold, seconded by Amundson.
And please state the friendly amendment one more time.
That upon passage of this resolution, we also take the steps necessary to immediately enact a full salary and retirement study for the unrepresented as recommended by the Pension Review Committee.
Could I ask Brittany Behrens, does this impede the implementation or execution of this resolution?
Well, I think it's appropriate to just remind the board that the resolution, even though you're passing it today, the actual effective date of the resolution isn't until December 25th of
Sure.
2014. So we really
Beginning of
have a
next year.
2-month window where enacting it today really accomplishes
Nothing.
nothing.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Doing nothing. That's
so
Fun.
I guess that's probably the most important piece, is this is only applied to those employees hired or elected on or after December 25th of 2014.
I
Very
guess
important
the
point.
question really should be stated more clearly by me, that that by tacking on a study, it does not affect the date that this would go into force, December 25th.
The friendly amendment didn't have anything to do with
I made no
a date.
Okay.
talk of implementation dates or changes. I just want the immediate action of the study for both the
And I would
employers
accept
and the
it.
employees and the taxpayers.
So that we know where we're at.
Then I would accept that.
Okay, it is moved and accepted.
Second
I think
that.
maybe we have another longtime employee here that would like to offer some comments. Welcome, Jeannie.
Jeannie Sayers.
But would you sign in, please, for the record?
Jeannie Sayers. I am a member of the Pension Review Committee, and I do want to remind you that this resolution is not the action that was recommended to you by the Pension Review Committee, and that we are opposed to all reduction of negotiation matches for all employees. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. Any further discussion? If not, we have a motion with a friendly amendment. Would you call the roll, please, Mr. Clerk?
Raybold,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Smoyer,
Yes.
Hudkins.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Next is 5D, a resolution in a matter of authorizing the installation of a side warning sign on Roca Road, 500 feet east of South 73rd Street for westbound traffic.
Move approval.
Second, and I believe Pam's
Oh,
coming up.
she's coming up, okay.
County Engineer Pam Dingman.
Good morning. This sign was requested by a citizen. We did a study of the area and we are recommending the sign be placed, so it's really the formality is asking for your approval to place this sign.
Fair enough.
Okay. Do we have a motion
Yes.
and a second?
Yes.
Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Raybold,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Smoyer,
Yes.
Hudkins.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. E is a recommendation from Emergency Management and the purchasing agent to award a bid to Midwest Card Solutions for a salamander badging system in the amount of $22,088.
Move approval.
Second.
We do have James David Saver, our Emergency Management Director here, if there are any questions. Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Amundson,
Yes.
Smoyer,
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Hudkins?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. 5F is an amendment to County Contract C-12-460 with LeGrand Excavating, Inc. for the annual requirements of snow and ice removal services. The amendment renews the agreement from October 1st, 2014 to September 30th, 2015.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll.
Smoyer?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Amundson?
Yes.
Hudkins?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. G is an amendment to County Contract C-12-461 with Mr. Yards and More LLC for the annual requirements of snow and ice removal services. The amendment renews the agreement from October 1st, 2014 to September 30th, 2015.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll.
Raybold?
Yes.
Amundson?
Yes.
Smoyer?
Yes.
Hudkins?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. H is 12-483 with Nebraska Salt and Grain Company for the annual supply of road salt. The amendment renews the agreement for an additional one-year period from September 13th, 2014 to September 12th, 2015 and provides for a price increase per attachment A.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll.
Raybold?
Yes.
Amundson?
Yes.
Smoyer?
Yes.
Hudkins?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. 5I is a grant contract with Lux Center for the Arts to provide funding of $8,000 for the Artists Inside program. The Lux Center for the Arts will provide $2,010 in matching funds. Term of the contract is July 1st, 2014 to June 30th, 2015.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion?
Amundson?
Yes.
Smoyer?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Hudkins?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. J is a grant contract with the Hub Inc. to provide funding of $36,200 for the Back on Track program. The Hub will provide $28,000 in non-federal matching funds. Term of the contract is July 1st, 2014 to June 30th, 2015.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll.
Smoyer?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Amundson?
Yes.
Hudkins?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. K is a political subdivision tort claim filed against Lancaster County Corrections by Brenda Britton in an undisclosed amount.
Based on the recommendation of the Director of Corrections, I move we deny.
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll.
Raybold?
Yes.
Amundson?
Yes.
Smoyer?
Yes.
Hudkins?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. L is a political subdivision tort claim filed against Lancaster County Corrections by Joseph Ely for $2.50.
Based on the recommendation of the Director of Corrections, I move we deny.
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll.
Raybold?
Yes.
Amundson?
Yes.
Smoyer?
Yes.
Hudkins?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. M was a political subdivision tort claim filed against Lancaster County Corrections by Russell Reynolds for $10,000.
Based on the recommendation of the Director of Corrections, I move we deny.
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll.
Amundson?
Yes.
Smoyer?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Hudkins?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. N is a political subdivision tort claim filed against Lancaster County Corrections by James Hudson for $60,000.
Based on the recommendation of the Director of Corrections, I move we deny.
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll.
Smoyer?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Amundson?
Yes.
Hudkins?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Next are consent items, right-of-way contracts for project C55K 412 bracket 298th Street from A to O with the following. East O Realty Company for $31,350. East O Realty Company and Hillcrest Country Club for $170,740. And East O Realty Company and Hillcrest Country Club for $147,850. Receive and place on file the following reports for September 2014. County Clerk, Clerk of the District Court, County Assessor, Register of Deeds.
Move approval of consent items.
Second.
Call the roll.
Raybold?
Yes.
Amundson?
Yes.
Smoyer?
Yes.
Hudkins?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Next is number 7, public comment. Those wishing to speak on items relating to county business not on the agenda may do so at this time.
Is there anyone who wishes to make public comment? Please come forward and sign in, sir. You need a pen, huh? You can keep that one. It's from the county treasurer. I just paid some taxes this morning.
Do I need to raise my hand as well?
No.
No. My name is Steve Clements, and I'm the treasurer of the Great Plains Bicycling Club, and I did send a message to the commissioners. Hopefully it wasn't taken in the wrong light. I don't have any real prepared comments, but what I do want to say is the bicyclists of Lincoln, bicyclists of Lancaster County, as well as the entire state, have our eyes on what's going on right now. We're concerned, we're scared, we're emotional. There's a lot of emotional things going on. But we want to make sure this doesn't get shifted to us versus them. We're cyclists, but we're also motorists, we're citizens, taxpayers, etc. We want to make sure some things get done that'll make these roads safer. And I do know that I have supporters. I don't want to pretend otherwise. I know that at least two people here are very big bicyclists, and so I appreciate that.
And
But
we had a
will
nice
be following
conversation
up.
on the phone this morning.
Yes, and I do appreciate that, Larry. So Larry and I are Quanians together. I don't know if, Larry, you're still in the club, but I appreciate anything we can do, signage, while shoulders on certain roads would even be better. There are some roads you can't avoid coming back in from the county into the city of Lincoln, and Saltillo Road's one of those. So those are my comments.
Well, and Steve, as we spoke this morning, you know, it's a two-way street. We both need to be more informed that bicyclists are going to be there, and we need the awareness, and we need, when they're out on our roads, they need to, you know, observe the rules too, and try to ride single file as far to the right as possible. And then I think most people probably are not aware that they need to stay at, I believe it's 3 feet away from when you're passing a cyclist.
And I think
and
anytime
that's
you hit
that's a
cyclist,
judgment
you
thing
flag it
that's
at that.
going to take some practice and some awareness to know.
Signage.
The one thing that I think that we need to stress to everyone is if they're riding on gravel roads, when cars are on them, sometimes, you know, you can be braking and things like that, you know, and you can slide and everything. And gravel roads are just inherently more dangerous than our pavement roads. And so I guess that we need to let the public know when they are on gravel roads, to be much more alert and not to drive very fast, to be able to have plenty of time to slow down.
I agree. I personally don't ride on gravel roads. They're terrifying, but I'm not stable enough at my age to do that. So.
Commissioner Raybould.
Well, Steve, thank you very much for your comments. As a cyclist, there's tremendous concern. And I think we need to reach out to our fellow cyclists and make sure that we all wear very bright-colored outfits and the bike flashers so that it increases our visibility, but also to reach out with, I see Pam Dingman, our county engineer, to see what type of signage on particularly certain stretches of the road where they do not have a shoulder. And I believe that most of these paved roads are constructed and designed to have a shoulder, because I think it's one of our greatest Nebraska tourism tools that we have is our amazing trails and country roads that are just beyond beautiful. And we want to keep encouraging this source of tourism, but I don't know what we can do in the meantime. Educate our cyclists to be as visible as possible, but to the motorists, we need to really educate them on being safer. But Pam, could you talk a little bit about signage possibilities in the county on certain roads that don't have shoulders?
Pam Dingman, Lancaster County Engineer. We are looking into, again, we talked signage earlier in the meeting. You know, there is the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. Long name, very thick manual that talks about the appropriate and proper installation of signs. So when this issue came up last week, we have started studying the signs. There are what's called share the road signs. And so, and it's a 2-sign system. So it's a share the road placard underneath a sign that either has a bike or a horse or whatever you're supposed to share the road with. You know, this would be a location where we could install share the road signs. Of course, then it gets to be a question of we have to study where the appropriate location of the share the road signs are. My office is currently looking at that. It will take a little bit of time. Then we have the shoulder issue. In the case of Saltillo, it is a dirt shoulder. In the case of Denton Road, we did make the road wide enough so that it had that extra asphalt, so that it did have an asphalt paved shoulder. To go back in later and add a paved shoulder, and now we have that seam of the asphalt, it doesn't really, it doesn't work well. But as we go forward in the future, I think we will have to look at this. But what I will also say to you is this does not come without cost. And whereas you have asked me to look at every conceivable possible cost and reduce it to the best, to the best of my ability, this is an area that we have looked at paving the minimum road section.
I wonder if it's a possibility to reach out to and get grant funding from Nebraska Tourism on certain stretches that are problematic and post those signs.
Correct, and that's something we'll look into. Now, with the shoulders, and again, we are, it's just been within the last week that I've had a number of these conversations. With the shoulders, it doesn't mean that the bike pavement would have to be added adjacent to the road. It could be added adjacent to the fence. As far as topographic survey and overall study of the area, I just don't have the information at this time. But, we will look into it and see what the best solution for this particular area is.
Commissioner Raybold, I think your comments about continuing education, both with the bicyclist as well as the motorist, as you know, Carol and I celebrated our 50th wedding anniversary, so I was coming out of Sartor Heyman Jewelry, and I was hit by a bicyclist 2 weeks ago. I just had a minor abrasion on my hand. It was a young man. I assume he was a student, and I never expected a bicycle to be on the sidewalk right there, and I opened the door, and boom, we collided. He was very nice about it and asked if I was hurt, and I said, well, not too bad. My pride is not very many people get hit by a bicycle, but it does happen. And as I visited with Mr. Clements this morning, he informed me that area, bicyclists really shouldn't be on the sidewalk. They should actually be in the street. So I think there's just a lot of awareness, and your comments, Jane, about education is so we know more about it and are more cognizant and look out for the other person.
But I want to be sure to clarify with you and with the public is that the county engineer's office is willing to meet and collaborate with these groups in order to find the best possible solution.
Great. We appreciate your cooperation, Pam.
Thank you. Yes.
Certainly.
Follow up on Sartor Heyman situation. It's horrid. I do see bicyclists riding downtown where they're not allowed to be riding. And part of that's education, but part of that is what's happening in the community where cars, when you're out on the roadway, decide they want to ride right behind you, which is extremely dangerous. It totally baffles me where you would have a car who's in the left-hand lane that you happen to be on your bicycle. They have 2 lanes, but they just absolutely have to be in that lane that the bicycle's in. So that's part of it. A lot of bicycles aren't comfortable being on
afraid out
a
down the
downtown
road.
road. Me, I ride on that road. Someday somebody's going to probably kill me, but the bottom line is it's a two-way street. The one last comment I'll make is that cars always severely injure bicyclists when they hit them. It's very seldom when a bicycle hits a car that it injures a car or the occupant. So.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else? If not, Mr. Clerk, will you proceed with the agenda?
Next is number 8, announcements. The Lancaster County Board of Commissioners will hold a staff meeting on Thursday, October 9th, 2014 at 8:30 a.m. in the Bill Luxford Studio of the County City Building. The Lancaster County Board of Commissioners will hold their next regular meeting on Tuesday, October 14th, 2014 at 10:30 a.m. in room 112 of the County City Building, with the Board of Equalization immediately following. County Commissioners can be reached at 402-441-7447 or commish@lancaster.ne.gov. The Lancaster County Board of Commissioners meeting is broadcast live. It is rebroadcast on Tuesday and Saturday on 5 City TV, Cable Channel 5, In addition, the meeting may be viewed on the internet at lancaster.ne.gov under 5 City TV, video on demand, or 5 City TV on YouTube.
Will we adjourn?
Second.
Call the roll.
Raybold?
Yes.
Amundson?
Yes.
Smoyer?
Yes.
Hudkins?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
We'll adjourn the regular county board meeting and open the Lancaster County Board of Equalization for Tuesday, October 7th. Mr. Clerk, will you begin the agenda, please?
A copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is located on the wall at the rear of the hearing room. Additionally, a copy of all written material to be discussed at today's open meeting is available from the county clerk's staff. The material can also be viewed on the county's website at lancaster.ne.gov. Also in attendance this morning is Scott Gaines from the county assessor's office. So, agenda item 1 are minutes, approval of the minutes of the Board of Equalization meeting held on Tuesday, September 30th, 2014.
Approval?
Second.
Are there additions or corrections? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Raybold?
Yes.
Amundson?
Yes.
Smoyer?
Yes.
Hudkins?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Number 2 are additions and deductions to the tax assessment rolls.
Move approval of the additions and deductions.
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll.
Raybold?
Yes.
Amundson?
Yes.
Smoyer?
Yes.
Hudkins?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Number 3 is motor vehicle tax exemption applications. Cross, Girl Scouts Spirit of Nebraska, Immaculate Heart of Mary, and Union College.
Move approval?
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll.
Amundson?
Yes.
Smoyer?
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Hudkins?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Next is number 4, public comment. Those wishing to speak on items relating to county business not on the agenda may do so at this time.
Is there anyone wishes to make public comment? Seeing none, proceed to adjournment,
Move we adjourn.
Second.
Second?
Call the roll, please.
Yes.
Raybold?
Yes.
Amundson?
Yes.
Hudkins?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.